Have you ever woken up, groggy, looked in the mirror, and genuinely wondered if the person staring back is really, well, you? Welcome to this explainer. Today we're diving straight into the ancient, seriously razor-sharp logic of Nāgārjuna's Mūlamadhyamakakārikā, specifically focusing right in on chapter 27. We're going to use his incredible step-by-step logical framework to completely, radically deconstruct our core concepts of time, reality, and the whole idea of the self. So, let's get into it.
I want you to start by asking yourself a seemingly super simple question. Did you actually exist in the past? Just think about the music you were totally obsessed with 10 years ago, or maybe that haircut you were absolutely certain looked amazing back then. If your past self is exactly the same as your present self, why on earth do you look, act, and think so incredibly differently today? But on the flip side, if you're completely different, how are you still fundamentally you? It's a massive paradox, right? And it drives right to the heart of human existence. To navigate this paradox, we'll be using a precise 11-step framework drawn directly from the text to guide us up a ladder of realization. We'll move from our most basic assumptions all the way to boundless compassion. Our map for today is straightforward. First, the illusion of views. Second, dismantling the self. Third, the two truths. And finally, walking the middle way.
All right, section 1, the illusion of views.
To kick off this journey, we have to confront the literal root of human suffering. Nāgārjuna identifies this root as mistaking our conceptual maps for reality itself. Basically, we cling to these speculative views, totally forgetting that they're just models. Step 1 of our analytical model isolates the 3 spheres of our phenomenal existence. Every single view we hold depends on these building blocks. We logically separate the self, that's the acquirer, from the action of acquiring, which is the acquisition, and from the physical and mental aggregates we actually acquire. Think of aggregates kind of like a car. A car is really just a handy label for a collection of tires, an engine, and a chassis. Beyond those acquired parts, there's no inherent carness hiding in there to be found. Moving right along to section 2, dismantling the self. Now, to systematically dismantle those exact 3 spheres we just established, Nāgārjuna brings in this brilliant logical tool called the tetralemma. Let's take our time and walk through this logic, because it's wild. In step 2, we apply the tetralemma to show that the self and its acquired aggregates literally cannot be identical. Because think about it, if they were, the self would just pop in and out of existence exactly like our fleeting thoughts or shedding skin cells, which is absurd. Second, they can't be completely different, or you could perceive a self entirely separate from your mind and body, which of course you can't. Third, they cannot be both, because that's inherently contradictory. And finally, they cannot be neither. Every single angle you try to view the self from leads straight to logical absurdity. And this brilliantly illustrates Nāgārjuna's whole point, which is captured perfectly here in the Garfield translation. Appropriating is not the self. It arises and ceases. Because the physical and mental elements we appropriate are constantly changing day in and day out, an inherently fixed eternal self cannot possibly be the appropriator. The math of reality just doesn't add up. So the absolutely crucial point here is that by exhausting all those logical options, we are forced to conclude in step 3 that these 3 spheres, the self, the action, and the aggregates, are entirely empty of inherent absolute existence. Now, let's be super clear. Empty here doesn't mean nothingness or nihilism. It doesn't mean you don't exist. It just means you don't exist independently. They are never absolute. If you go searching for a solid, independent, totally isolated you are never going to find it.
Which brings us to section 3, the two truths.
But wait, if there's no absolute self, do we just, vanish into thin air? Well, not quite. Steps 4 and 5 reveal what's known as the union of the two truths. On one side, we have the ultimate truth. Phenomena lack absolute, independent reality. But on the other side, we also have the conventional truth. Phenomena absolutely do functionally exist through what's called dependent origination. To put it simply, you only exist in relation to everything else. Think of it like a wave out on the ocean. The wave absolutely exists, right? You can surf it, you can measure its height, but you can't carve it out, put it in your pocket, and separate it from the rest of the ocean. You exist, for sure, but only as a deeply interconnected process. Because things are dependently co-arisen and ultimately empty, step 6 tells us they are essentially like illusions, reflections, mirages, dreams, or echoes. They are functionally there, yet not there. Think about shouting into a massive canyon and hearing an echo. You hear it loudly. You can literally record its sound waves. It undeniably has a functional, real-world reality. But try to grab that echo. Try to put it in a box and take it home. You can't. Yourself and your actions operate in that exact same, beautifully elusive way. Expanding this crazy logic into step 7, the generalized tetralemma tackles our human mind's absolute favorite hobby, dualistic conceptual proliferation. Now, I know that is a super heavy philosophical term, but it really just means that our brains love, and I mean literally love, to put things into neat little boxes. We want to label everything, good or bad, me or you, permanent or temporary. But the tetralemma proves that reality simply refuses to be boxed in like that. Reality is not permanent, it's not impermanent, not eternal, and not annihilated. It's entirely beyond all of those conditioned concepts. Whatever label you try to stick on reality, reality is inherently free of it. Building on the fact that reality refuses our mental boxes, Nāgārjuna poetically anchors this in chapter 27 by comparing our existence to the flame of a butter lamp. As the Padmakara translation puts it so well, neither its finitude nor its infinitude makes sense. A flame isn't a static object that you can just toss into the finite box or the infinite box. It's a continuous, dynamic, dependent process. It's happening right now.
And now for our final section, section 4, walking the middle way. Now it's time to see how this profound, mind-bending, philosophical deconstruction actually translates into lived experience and ultimate liberation in our day-to-day lives. Step 8 defines the middle way, and it is absolutely crucial to understand that this isn't just some lukewarm compromise or a safe middle ground between two arguments. No, it is an optimal attitude that is completely free from all extremes. It's free from this or non-this, and even free from the middle itself. It's a total transcendence where we realize we don't have to absolutely accept, reject, add, or subtract a single thing from reality. This totally effortless attitude brings us to step 9, acting without acting. This means we don't have to throw away our concepts entirely. We can still safely use our conventional maps and models to navigate the real world, go to work, and connect with the people we love. But we act non-dualistically. It's kind of like playing a really passionate game of Monopoly. You engage deeply, you follow the rules, you try your best to win. That's the conventional map. But if you lose all your fake money, you don't genuinely suffer over it because you know it's ultimately just a game. You engage fully without attaching absolute reality to the cardboard pieces on the board. By stepping away from those rigid, absolute views, we finally arrive at step 10. We realize that our self, our actions, and our acquisitions are primordially pure, perfect, and equal. Now, this is understood in a strictly non-dual sense. That means things aren't one like some giant, singular, cosmic blob, as opposed to many individual things. Rather, it means reality is simply manifesting exactly as it is, perfectly complete and undeniably beautiful, the very second we stop letting our conceptual filters distort it. And this brings us to the ultimate crowning result in step 11. Because there is no solid, absolute boundary between you and me, because we're all just dependently co-arising waves rolling on the exact same ocean, helping you is fundamentally indistinguishable from helping myself. When you truly, deeply see that we are all part of the exact same limitless, centerless karmic cycle, boundless compassion naturally and spontaneously emerges. It's not something you have to force or fake. It is literally the absolute default state of a liberated mind. The fatal flaw of the human intellect is mistaking our little models for reality itself. So having climbed this incredible 11-step ladder together and having completely dismantled the illusion of your absolute self, I want to leave you with this final provocative thought. Are you finally ready to stop clinging to your conceptual maps, step right off the paper, and experience reality exactly as it truly is?